6, 7, 8. Okay. Oh. 9. Okay.
Imagine a robot that can create art, not because it was programmed to, or designed to, or told to, but because it wanted to. I started thinking about this topic when I was making these little, this toy. It's like a Japanese robot action figure. I'll tell you a bit about that in a bit, in a little bit. But what I discovered is that scientists have already created computers that, when told to, can create their own images that didn't exist before. But what if a computer felt like doing it by itself for fun? In this speech, I'll tell you about the hobby that led me to research about this topic, what technology we've created so far, and how that technology might evolve in the future. So I've never been a huge fan of anime, but I decided to watch this one series called Gundam Build Fighters, and in that show, they have these robots that can battle each other. I found out that you can buy like a toy version of these robots from the show and build them yourself. So I bought a few and I started building them. I never really had like a hobby like that before, so it was a really good way to spend my time, and if I made them correctly, they looked really cool. This is an example of one that I have made before. This is not the exact one that I made, but it's like... there's hundreds of tiny little plastic pieces that you have to cut out of the frame. You take the plastic excess off, you sand down all the edges to make sure it's nice and smooth, and then you can put all the pieces together with these instructions. They're in Japanese, but there's some pretty descriptive pictures. When I was building these, I started thinking about how cool it would be to actually have a robot like this that you can use in real life to fight, similar to how we use tanks and jets in the military today, but a more advanced version of that. Or maybe something like an exoskeleton. According to Esther Sheen from the Communications of the ACM, an exoskeleton is a machine that we can wear on our bodies that mimics our skeletal system. After thinking about how cool it would be to have one of these robots that we control, I was thinking about robots that are that we control remotely, either like with a remote or autonomously by being programmed to do certain things. And then I started thinking about robots that made their own decisions, and I started researching artificial intelligence. There are 3 kinds of artificial intelligence that I want to talk about. The first kind is the only kind that we've created so far, called artificial narrow intelligence. Google created an artificial narrow intelligence that allows us, learned how to play the world's most complicated board game. This board game has more moves than there are atoms in the universe. So it's very complicated. It was able to beat any human, and eventually they created a newer version that beat the previous version 100 to 0. Even the people creating this technology never thought that it would increase its intelligence this quickly. Some artificial narrow intelligence that you might be familiar with are Apple Siri, Amazon's Alexa, and Microsoft's Cortana. There's a version of this artificial neural intelligence called neural networks that mimics the way that our brains work, with neurons firing and telling other neurons what to do, and with certain input, it can have a certain output. According to Christopher Tack from Science Direct, artificial narrow intelligence, machine learning is another way to talk about the neural networks, and it's a new technology that we can use to process data in ways that we never have before. The next version that so far we have not created is called artificial general intelligence, and it's basically when artificial intelligence becomes as smart as a human. Scientists believe that once artificial general intelligence is reached, it will just keep on getting smarter and smarter until it becomes something called artificial superintelligence. We could use this technology to come up with ideas that we've never thought of before or even imagined possible. Artificial superintelligence might even come up with things that we wouldn't even be able to comprehend. Gil Kormanjit, it's an Indian name, it's hard to pronounce, from the AI Society, says that AI will trigger a revolutionary change in our society, and we'll have a hard time coping with it. Another more science fiction-y way that artificial superintelligence might come about is that artificial general intelligence will create another version of itself but it's more likely that it'll just keep on getting smarter and smarter rather than stopping to create a new version. AI is cool and really interesting in all the ways that we can develop it and what it can do, but it's also very scary. I started just making a simple toy action figure, and I started thinking about robots and what they can do and how that might affect us if they could make decisions for themselves. In an interview with Joe Rogan, Elon Musk said, referring to artificial intelligence, "It might be terrible and it might be great. It's not clear. But one thing is for certain, we will not control it." Are there any questions that you guys have about this topic?
Do you happen to know, or like within your research, like I know we have like the general artificial intelligence, but like, you know, sometimes the militaries have kind of like more advanced, like do you know of any, you know, existing advanced developments that they have?
As far as what's available to the public, we don't have any idea of anything more advanced than what we have, which is the narrow intelligence. Anybody else?
I'm trying to think of a question, but which one of the three possibilities that you talked about kind of leans into the whole like Matrix scenario where like robots basically take over and cripple us and things like that?
Yeah, well, that would be the artificial super intelligence. It doesn't matter really which way we develop it, whether it creates itself or like it just gets smarter. If it decides that we're useless to it and whatever its goal is, then it could be possible. But that's far into the future potentially. Anybody else? Alright, I guess that's all.
Thank you.
Okay.